Hey, girls and gals. First things first, I apologize if I sound a little phlegmy or anything like that. I'm a bit under the weather at the moment. Well, thank you again for being amazing listeners and being amazing ghouls and gals and just being awesomely supportive. We had fun coming out with all this content for you for this month, for Ghouls and Gals Month, and it's been a blast, and we can't wait to keep bringing out more awesome content for all you ghouls and gals. But one thing we have talked about a lot is going over to our Patreon to listen to the Punk Rock Half Hour Power, where we continue our discussions that we have on our Monday episodes. So we figured we'd kind of give you a taste of what that's like and what's going on. So, here is your sneak peek. Well, I shouldn't say it's a sneak peek, because here is the first full episode of the Punk Rock Half Hour Power, hosted by Lala. She continues the conversation that we last got off of talking about guilty pleasures and why not to be ashamed of them, and she had a creepypasta for us. She had a guest on, and it was an awesome time. So with that being said, please check it out, and also please consider becoming a patron for the Punk Rock Horror Podcast today. You can go right over to our Patreon account in the details below. There's a link in the episode notes. So thank you again, ghouls and gals, and let's jump into this episode.
Welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast Half Hour Power. I am Lala, and Gwenny is with me. Today we are going to be talking about guilty pleasures and what kind of movies are our guilty pleasures. And so one of the things we were talking about when we were setting things up is what is the definition of a guilty pleasure? And one of the things that we were sort of saying is it's a movie that you really enjoy, but you're kind of embarrassed saying to people. But we also then sort of went on to say, if you're talking about horror movies, you shouldn't be embarrassed because they're all pretty good, even the bad ones. I sort of disagreed because I'm not a huge fan of trauma movies. They're not very good to me. I don't think they're very well acted, which I know is what people love about them. I don't think they're shot very well, which is what people love about them. So I digress. Anyway, back to secret pleasure movies. So what do you like?
When it comes to horror movies, I don't know what I'd say for a guilty pleasure. I don't really hide from much, and I think most anything scares me, so if I was spooked out by it, I'm willing to tell most anyone that it scared me.
Yeah, I don't really have one either, because I was initially saying, well, maybe I'll say, Dead Alive, but that sort of launched Peter Jackson's career, and it has a huge cult following, so I don't think that that's necessarily it either. To be honest, my real guilty pleasures movies are rom-coms, so there you go. I guess those are horrors in and of itself if you have to watch them and you hate them. So those are kind of what we were talking about, that we don't really think of anything that necessarily stands out as wow, I probably shouldn't tell people I watched this movie.
I'm not proud to say I've seen all the Saw movies.
I like those movies. I don't think you should be embarrassed about saying that, really.
I think I've seen the first one 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, no, I think they're great. I mean, I think the idea behind them is good. I love the twists. I kind of love, all of the kill mechanisms. I mean, you can't beat that.
It's creative. It's a little creepy that you'd say that, but it's creative.
For sure. Let's see. Tonight, we watched Us. And I gotta tell you, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but not a fan.
I liked it.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
I thought it was terrible. I thought it was overreaching. I thought they were trying to be super intellectual, esoteric, commentary on social things. And I thought that they lost a really great movie inside a lot of really bad plot.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, when I saw it with people who are scared of everything.
I'm scared of everything, and I wasn't scared of anything in this movie. I was like, oh my gosh.
It was one of those movies where I don't think it was more suspenseful, I'd say, than it was scary. It definitely, for me, it kept me okay, there's something new. But what I liked about the movie is it wasn't the same, there's a demon in my house, I'm gonna get jump scared for an hour and a half. I like that it was, when it comes to the genre that it was trying to achieve, I like that it was different. it didn't feel like I was, you know, like Paranormal Activity scares me, Blair Witch Project scares me, but it didn't feel like I was watching another Blair Witch Project. It felt unique, which I liked.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess. To me, the whole movie just felt so arduous. Like, oh my God, when are we going to get to the end already? Because it felt like step by step by step. And I get scared at absolutely everything, and not one single thing scared me in this movie. So, I don't know. That was kind of our movie review for tonight. And then I thought we could talk a little bit about things we like. And you and I have both fell in love with HBO's new show called Los Spookies.
Oh, yeah.
And it is great. So even if you don't speak Spanish, you should totally watch it because the subtitles are great. The show in and of itself is fantastic. The plot lines of the first 2 episodes that they have had out have been amazing. And it's just, to me, it's a great nod to the whole horror genre and people who love the horror genre. You know, I mean, they've gone and, you know, they make their whole, like, premise about being horror genre nerds and all the things that they can do with it. And I've really enjoyed it. So I think that you and I were saying that, you know, whether you speak Spanish or not, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, it's funny. I like it.
And then the other show I've been watching but you didn't care for was Diableros, which I thought was really good.
I mean, I didn't get super far into it, but it felt really cheesy. Mm-hmm. And the parts I watched was just, like, terrible editing and kind of looked like they put toilet paper on a mannequin and tossed it all over the place. So I'm willing to give it a second try.
Well, they're hunting demons. Of course it's going to be cheesy and look sort of silly, you know?
Too cheesy.
It was too cheesy?
So I'm willing to give it a second try, but it just felt over the top, but not in a fun way. Not in a Los Spookies way.
Yeah. Well, I think they're apples and oranges for sure. But again, if you don't speak Spanish, like, that's totally something you can watch either dubbed or with subtitles. And the reason Guinevere and I have been watching so many of these shows in Spanish is that we've been working on our Spanish. So please, if you see us on the street, don't come up and start rattling stuff off to us unless you have subtitles for the both of us to read, because we're only working on it at this point. But, you know, our good friend Miggy kind of said the best way to learn is to watch TV. And I've got to tell you, I've been loving Mexican horror.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to give that show another try. I mean, I'm out of a show right now anyways, so.
And the music in both of them have been really good. I've been learning all kinds of stuff about Mexican punk and, like, the punks in Mexico City, and that has been so rad.
I'm into the synth pop. I think that, well, I like synth pop, but I think the one show has a lot of, like, synth poppier, like, kind of like
gothy.
Yeah. That's what I've liked. I like that.
And then again, the Mexican version has been really, I think they do a great job.
Yeah,
I mean, just in general. And I gotta be honest, like, whenever you see, you know, like, the backyard shows and that kind of stuff, I've never wanted to go to a backyard house party as much as I want to go to some of those. Those punk shows look amazing.
Oh, I bet.
And then what about our bad thing for the night? Our bad thing for the night has nothing to have to do with anybody else other than the two of us, and that is that our good friend from the Colorado punk rock skate team, Zach, moved to Florida this past week, and so that's been sort of a bummer, and so that is going to be our we don't like that for this week.
No, not at all.
No. And you don't want to hear us cry. So, moving on, we are today reading a story from a creepypasta called The Thing That Will Kill Me, and it is by Ashley Rose Wellman. I grew up in a tiny town in Vermont. Tiny in terms of population, not size. There were huge sprawling farms and wooded areas, but almost no people. More cows than people, which is standard for a lot of small towns in Vermont. So clearly not the most fun in the world for a kid who was sick of freezing winters and awful balmy summers surrounded by boring Vermonters that didn't have many kids my age. My only close friend was Tina, who was a year older than me. We spent almost all of our time with each other, constantly dreaming about life outside of Vermont. The people in our town were strange folk, different than in other places. One thing I didn't realize about small towns until I moved to the city, is how incredibly superstitious people in towns like mine could be. They believed in the strange, the paranormal. They believed in Luvia. Luvia was an older French-Canadian woman who moved to Vermont when she met her husband, and everyone in town thought she was clairvoyant, psychic. Even my own parents did. One day, my mother lost her wedding ring. She had looked around everywhere for it. They called Luvia, and she immediately told them it was under a cold, rotting wood. They looked in the backyard where my father had been tearing apart a decaying piano he found. My mother had helped him one day. The ring was there, under cold, old, rotting wood. After hearing a lot about Luvia from older townsfolk who seemed to think she was 100% credible, Tina and I decided to go see her one evening to try and find out whatever she could tell us about the quote-unquote future. I was skeptical, but it seemed like a fun thing to do as a joke. So we dropped by her house in an early evening, and she opened the door as we walked up the pathway to her house. Before we even had a chance to knock, Tina elbowed me hard in the ribs and whispered that Luvia was clearly a psychic. She sensed us coming to the door. I whispered back that probably had more to do with her house being full of windows, and the fact that she probably saw us coming from a long way away. Either way, I started to feel strange the minute we got close to her. She was very, very old, very tiny, and kind of sunken eye sockets, and sharp cheekbones, and sort of concave chest cavity. It was more than a little unnerving, but she smiled and was sweet to us, and I started to warm up to her. Nothing about her or her house screamed creepy psychic to me. Just a well-dressed older woman in a cabin-styled house. It looked like you'd imagine any typical grandma's house. Doilies, knitting, family magazines, etc. We told her that we were interested in a clairvoyant reading and handed her about $20 that we had scrounged together between the two of us. She led us to her kitchen table and asked us which one of us wanted to go first. "What can you tell me about my love life?" Tina asked. Luvia had no crystal ball, tarot cards, or tea leaves. She just closed her eyes and sat silently for about 2 minutes. Then she took a deep breath and said, "Michael Carton." Tina stared at her for a few seconds until Luvia repeated, "Michael Carton, the man you're going to marry, Michael Carton." Tina thanked her and repeated the name to herself a few times. Michael Carton, Michael Carton, Michael Carton. Luvia then turned to me. "Whatever you can tell me, I'd like to hear," I said. "It doesn't have to be about my love life or anything." Luvia closed her eyes for a few seconds, but information about me seemed to reach her much quicker than her visions of Tina's husband. She looked me straight into my eyes and grabbed my hands and said, "The thing that will kill you is shedding its skin. The thing that will kill you is sharpening its teeth. The thing that will kill you is washing the blood off its claws. The thing that will kill you is gathering skins. The thing that will kill you, you won't see coming." The three of us sat there in silence for quite a while. I felt sick, shaken up. Luvia looked as if she wished she didn't have to tell me that. Is there anything I can do to stop it?" I asked. Luvia slid our money back across the table to us. "No charge for the reading." Tina and I slunk out of Luvia's house quietly. We didn't say a word on our way back to our houses. Tina found out the name of the love of her life, and I got to listen to a horrifying cryptic message about my death. I was 12. I was fucking terrified. When Tina left me at my doorstop, she tried to make light of the readings. "How does she know who I'm going to marry?" she asked. "And it's not like somebody's monster's going to get you, some skin-shedding, body-sharp It's not like a monster's going to get you. It's not like some monster. It isn't going to get you. For years I looked for it, the thing that would kill me. I could almost feel it. Sensed it behind each car, swaying behind the trees at night, underneath the fresh snow, waiting outside my window. With every step I hesitated. Every time I tried to sleep, I could almost see it. What had she said about its teeth? I looked out for sloughed skin, for blood, for skins, for hides, but I never found it. When I was 18, I left for California to get as far away from the snow and cold and the thing that would kill me. I stopped sensing it everywhere. My heart stopped pounding whenever I walked alone at night. Maybe whatever it was, it stayed in Vermont. Maybe it wasn't the thing at all. People in California laughed when I told them the story, and it stopped seeming real. Just the ramblings of a tiny, ancient French-Canadian woman. It wasn't real. When I was 27, a wedding invitation came in the mail. Tina was getting married. This is the first I had heard of it. I was still in California and barely kept in contact with anyone from back east. It seemed like a past life. You're cordially invited to the wedding of Michael Carton and Tina. Wait. No. She had the name in mind, Michael Carton. And she sought him out. It had nothing to do with Luvia. Her predictions weren't real. They couldn't be. Clairvoyants don't exist. It's ridiculous to think that kind of thing could happen in the real world. I went to the wedding. Tina, Michael, and I laughed about the whole thing. The psychic knew. She predicted it. And of course she didn't. Tina and Michael decided it was nothing more than a funny story to tell their future children. Just tell us if you run into some beast with razor-sharp teeth that's gathering skins, okay? Then we'll think it's more than a funny coincidence. I left the wedding as sure as I was ever that the thing that would kill me wasn't real, didn't exist. I looked behind trees, behind the cars. Nothing was waiting for me. Nothing was ready to skin me. I don't know why I had been scared for so long. The best thing about Tina's wedding was that we got back in touch for the first time in a very long time. We were different people and we had been children, but we still shared more of a bond than we realized. She was happy living in Vermont with Michael. She told me everything that was going on in our town. The population slowly increasing, the new schools they were building, the babies that were the babies that were born, and Luvia dying. As the years went on, her calls and emails got less and less frequent. She always seemed too busy. Soon they tapered off completely. I missed her, of course, but I had my own life, and I could check in on my childhood home whenever I wanted. One winter I came into town to visit my parents for the holidays, and I decided I'd swing by Tina's house. I normally never just drop by, but she was pretty bad about answering the phone, and I really wanted to see her. I pulled up to her and Michael's house, 2 cars in the driveway, so I figured they were both home. I walked up and rang the doorbell. Michael opened it, dressed in several layers, a large coat, as if he had just come in from the snow. He had invited me inside, and he looked very surprised to see me and asked if I had talked to Tina recently. I haven't, actually. Not in several months. Sorry for the invasion. I don't usually drop by like this, but I was wondering if I could see her. I figured you knew. That you'd have heard. She left me a few months ago, just up and left. Hasn't spoke to me since. Oh, God, I said. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. He took off his coat and hung it on the coat rack by the door. Can I take your coat? He asked. I told him I was all right, that I wouldn't stay long. I was just shocked she'd do something like that. He was really a good guy. I'm sorry, I was about to get ready for bed. I've got an early workday tomorrow. Do you mind? He kicked off his shoes, pulled his sweater off, and headed toward the bathroom. I settled in, looked around their home. Of course I don't mind. Do you know where she went? I don't, he yelled from the bathroom, with a mouthful of toothpaste. She didn't call until after she was gone. That's awful. I'm so sorry. He started flossing, and when he saw me looking toward him, closed the door for privacy. When I heard the shower water start running, I pulled out my phone, figuring I'd take this time to look through Tina's last messages to me. to see if she gave any hint to where she went, any clue. My phone fell out of my hand, and I grabbed it out of my bag, and I saw it drop beneath the couch. I felt around underneath the couch for my phone. My hand hit something else, a massive clump of long hair. I pulled it out from beneath the couch. It seemed so strange, such a large mass of hair. Brown hair. Tina's shade. Hair with a piece of scalp attached. The thing that will kill you is gathering skins. I turned toward the bathroom door. Michael was still showering. The thing that will kill you is washing blood off its claws, flossing, brushing. The thing that will kill you is sharpening its teeth, sloughing off his outer clothes, his shoes. The thing that will kill you is shedding its skin. Oh, God, the thing that will kill me. I heard the water in the shower stop, movements from inside the bathroom. I ran out the door. I slammed the door, sprinted to my car, shaking and watching the door. My hands fumbled with the keys, shaking. The door to the house opened. My car started. I drove. I didn't look back. I drove. All through the night, through most of the next day, only stopping when I absolutely had to. I had no idea if he was following me. I had no idea what I had just seen. My heart didn't start beating normally again until I was 2 states away. I went home. This was months ago. I called the police. They investigated. Nothing turned up. They're sure she just left him. Moved away. Maybe she did. Maybe she's far away safe. Maybe nothing's coming for me. Maybe Michael's just a poor guy whose wife left him. Maybe nothing's behind the trees, in the snowdrifts, underneath the cars, outside my door at night, in the windows. Maybe it's nothing. Probably it's nothing. Luvia's been wrong before. Hasn't she? The thing that will kill you, you won't see coming. The end. What'd you think?
I don't know about them boring babies. I liked it.
I did too. I have often wondered, like, what would I want to know how I was going to die?
No, I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
No. I don't want to know anything about the future. Like, I'd like to know when it's going to rain next, but I don't want to know, like, if I get married or when I die, or because then you plan around it, and you don't actually get to live your life.
Well, I'm sure you'll be surprised, but I'm not a big surprise person. So I wonder if I'd live my life differently if I knew.
No, I just want to live until I die.
What do you think you'd live your life differently if you knew? Like, I feel like I'd be more adventurous, and I'd go more places and do more things, and I'd let stuff go a lot differently if I knew the date and time. And
I think I'd just be sad more. Like, I'd be sad that I knew it was coming to an end. Like, I'm just overly emotional anyway, so I'd be all wishy-washy the whole time. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna die.
You're probably not wrong. I guess I would probably do that too. You're probably right. I probably would get to the part where I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna die.
I mean, we're gonna die anyways. You should just do those things.
It's true. I mean, you're not wrong, and people should probably think about that a little bit more. I mean, we are all going to die. I thought it was a good story. It was a weird twist. I wasn't entirely thinking that it would be the husband. I kind of wish they would go more into that. Would have gone more into that, actually, but I don't know. Did you think it was going to be the husband?
I actually didn't.
Yeah, that was a different twist for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a normal type story where it was just whatever creepy monster.
Yeah, so she married a psycho killer.
Yeah, which, I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool.
That was definitely
like, it wasn't
a good
cool
twist.
for her, but it was cool for the writer.
It was cool for the reader.
Yeah.
So, well, that was a good one. So, anyway, you should definitely visit the Punk Rock Horror Podcast merch section on the Patreon. We've got some new cool merch out that I think is pretty cool. I like the reworkings of some of the shirts, and of course you can't beat the whole time Matt said effigy wrong and said a figgy when he read it, which has now become a hilarious...
I was wondering why that was a thing. Like, I think I've seen that around, but I didn't know why.
Yeah, it's a hilarious hashtag now, a figgy.
I don't know, I thought it was some sort of like inside horror joke I wasn't like privy to.
Well, I mean, kind of it is, in the
I know.
sense that it's their inside horror joke. And it can be everyone else's because they all got to hear it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, definitely want to visit that. And then some cool punk rock stuff that has happened is Colorado Punk Rock Army has started a skate team, which is really rad. You should follow them on Facebook. Some nice guys doing some cool skateboarding, some rad tricks. Sick
All the good
tricks,
stuff.
bro.
All
Yep.
the good stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And any good shows coming up? I mean, there's some good big shows coming
Yeah,
up.
there's some really, like, the Bouncing Souls, No Effects, Me First and Gimme Gimmes. I'm excited. I love the Bouncing Souls with all my heart, but
Me too.
I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah, that's the Punk and Drublick. And of course, the Misfits.
Oh, yeah.
My all-time favorite. I get to see my 2 favorite bands this summer.
Yeah?
So the Misfits is my favorite band, followed only ever so closely by the Bouncing Souls.
Beastie Boys?
Well, yeah.
You never know.
But the Beastie Boys would be a
Whole new thing.
whole, yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose if they could figure out a way to resurrect MCA, then I could they would be my pie in the sky. But I got to see them when I was a kid, so, I did get to see them. But anyways, lots of good shows, tons and tons of good local shows. Of course, The Kids Are All Right is coming up July 14th. You can always go over to Colorado Punk Rock Army and look up some of the other rad shows and see some of the other great bands that are going to be playing around town. And I think that brings us to the end for the evening. Anything else?
That I can think of.
No? Awesome. Well, have a good week, guys, and we will talk to you soon.